Welcome and thank you for joining me on this Wheel and Anchor webinar featuring our upcoming journey through Peru. This is a destination that has always surprised me every time I go back. When most people think about Peru, they think, of course, about Machu Picchu. And of course, that breathtaking view is absolutely a core part of this trip. But what I love about Peru is how much more there is beyond that famous postcard view that we all know. This journey is designed to show you the full spectrum of Peru, from the Pacific coast to the high Andes, as well as into the heart of the Amazon rainforest. We'll explore cities built on layers of Inca and colonial history. We'll meet indigenous communities who still work with ancient techniques. And of course, we'll stand at the edge of that remarkable citadel in the clouds. Peru has seen a tourism boom over the past 2 decades, but somehow it still feels grounded, diverse, and very real. Undoubtedly, it's a country of contrasts, coastal, highland, jungle, and we've built this journey to capture that range with time to slow down and connect meaningfully with the spots we'll visit along the way. So, over the next 40 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through the itinerary day by day, and I'll give you a closer look at the people, the places, and the experiences that make this trip so special. Now, if you've joined us for a Wheel and Anchor webinars before, feel free to jump ahead using the time markers below. Then you can skip to the map and the day by day itinerary. But if you're new to Wheel and Anchor, I invite you to stay with me for the next couple of slides to learn a little bit about who we are and how we travel. Before getting into the itinerary, let me share a little bit about what makes Wheel and Anchor different, because we're not just another tour company. We are, in fact, a community of Canadian travelers that are united by a shared philosophy, which is that the most meaningful experiences happen when you take a little more time to go beyond the surface of a destination, and just importantly, when you share those moments with like-minded people. So I'll get a little bit more into a little bit more about that in a moment. But if you're watching this, you probably have a travel bucket list somewhere. Most travelers do. I certainly do. Maybe it's written down, maybe it's somewhere online, or maybe it's just in your head. But here's what I've learned after 3 decades of organizing travel for Canadians. It's that the real magic often lies just beyond those bucket list places. It's about the unexpected moments, like maybe you're wandering inadvertently in the wrong direction and you discover a cool part of town that you might not have otherwise seen. Or I remember sometimes poking my head into a gallery that's not quite open, and all of a sudden you're invited in for an impromptu conversation with the artist. Those are the kind of stories that we tell when we get home because they fall outside the structured part of any organized trip. But perhaps most importantly, it's about who you're sharing those experiences with. There's something uniquely comforting about exploring the world with fellow Canadians, people who just get you, who speak your language both figuratively and literally, and who often become lifelong friends rather than just fellow travelers you may never see again. So, if you value good conversation, a shared laugh in surprising places, and the freedom to connect authentically or explore independently, you may just have found your travel home with us here at Wheel and Anchor. Our travel philosophy centers on two fundamental goals, and these transform how you experience the world. They are being well traveled and well connected. So, let me first say a couple words about being well traveled, because this is not just a race to collect passport stamps, it's a practice of presence. Sometimes I call it the curious wanderer's mindset, slowing down, tuning in, and allowing a place to reveal itself on its own terms. When you savor the rhythms, the stories, and the everyday rituals around you, then a journey shifts from being just sightseeing to a real insight, an experience that shapes you long after you've returned home. If you think about well traveled friends, those are the ones with the most unique stories and experiences, not to mention learnings from their travels around the world. The second part of our philosophy is about being well connected. And this is where Wheel and Anchor really differs from conventional tour operators, because connection isn't just about your fellow travelers, although they're an important part of it. It's about how travel deepens your relationship with the world. We create opportunities for you to get hands on with arts or crafts or cooking, learning from artisans who've kept centuries old techniques alive, and to point out the places where you can actually interact with locals and have the kind of conversations that just like you might have with folks back home on the other side of town. Together, these elements create what we call the Wheel and Anchor transformation. returning home carrying more than just souvenirs, but rather having newfound perspectives that enrich your daily life and lasting friendships that continue inspiring you long after your luggage is unpacked. This is travel that changes you. So I just want to say a couple more things before we delve into the details of this trip, because I want to tell you a little bit about who we are, who are the people of Wheel and Anchor, beyond our members, of course. So first of all, my name is Gordon Dreger. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor, and I've been organizing travel for the better part of 35 years. In fact, I've done trips for Canadians to just about all parts of the globe. But I couldn't pull off all these promises that I've just talked about without an incredible team of people, all of whom are as dedicated as I am to ensuring that we deliver some of the best experiences out there for our members. The person, however, who's most important for you is our lead trip specialist, Paula Zarnick. You can see a picture of her just to my right, and she's the person when you drop us an email or you give us a call, who's most likely going to be frontline to make sure that you get your questions answered and to assist you in joining us if you decide to come along on this or any of our trips. So let's now jump into what makes this Peruvian sojourn trip so special. So our plan for the webinar today is pretty straightforward. As usual, I'm going to be your virtual guide and I'm going to take you on a little journey around Peru, following in the footsteps of this Peruvian sojourn trip. We'll start off with a geographical overview with the map, and then I'll walk you through the highlights of each day of this adventure. Now, if you're not sure what a sojourn style of trip is, this combines curated group activities, for example, guided historical walks and cooking classes, with sufficient unstructured time for you to explore independently. You can imagine yourself in the morning walking around the local town, visiting an artisan workshop, and then having the afternoon to wander the cobblestone streets or relaxing at a cafe and even catching maybe a local show. As with all of our trips, we handle all the key logistics, which is accommodation, selected dining experiences, and expert led excursions, leaving you plenty of time for personal discovery. These trips suit the kind of people who want to avoid the constant packing and unpacking or rushed sightseeing, which is the norm with most tour companies. This slower rhythm fosters connections with locals and the landscapes, and it offers kind of a middle ground between brief tours and extended stays. Ultimately, our sojourn trips are about savoring a destination's essence, not just checking landmarks off a list. So, using the map, my favorite part of any webinar or any trip, let's get our bearings before I get into the day by day details. As you probably remember from your school books, Peru is a country in the northwestern part of South America, bounded by Ecuador and Colombia to the north, Brazil to the east, and Bolivia and Chile down to the south. It's just south of the equator, which gives it a very diverse climate. Cool breezes make the temperature along the coast milder. The high Andes Mountains obviously can get quite chilly, and the Amazon basin is, of course, warm and tropical. This trip gives us a chance to experience all three climatic regions. It's a country shaped by deep indigenous traditions, colonial history, and dramatic geography, with each region offering a different story. Now, there's three distinct parts to this trip. We'll start off with our optional pre-trip along along Peru's southern coast. We'll start in Lima and continue down overland to the seaside town of Paracas. From there, we'll take to the air to view the Nazca Lines, and by boat over to the Ballestas Islands, home to sea lions and coastal birds. It's a landscape of desert cliffs, marine life, and ancient mystery. The main trip starts back in Lima and then continues south by air to Arequipa, a city of white volcanic stone and wide mountain views. From there, we'll journey down into the Sacred Valley, visiting weaving communities and Inca ruins, and we'll travel by train into the famous Machu Picchu. We'll finish off in Cusco, where the histories of the Inca and colonial worlds intertwine. For those who choose to join us for the optional post trip, we'll continue our journey from there east into the Amazon basin, flying directly from Cusco to Puerto Maldonado, and we'll travel by boat to a private eco lodge along the Madre de Dios River, which is a tributary of the mighty Amazon itself. There we'll have a chance to do canopy walks, jungle trails, all guided, and nighttime wildlife excursions. It's a completely different side of Peru, lush, remote, and alive with biodiversity. Put together, these three segments offer a rare opportunity to experience the full range of Peru's living landscapes, from coast to canyon to rainforest. So let's dive into the day by day details of our Peruvian sojourn, starting off with our optional pre trip to Paracas. We'll start our journey in Lima, Peru's capital and busiest urban center. Beyond those two key points, Lima is also one of South America's culinary hotspots, and it's a city which is full of energy, color, and amazing ocean views. Now, we'll go into it a little more depth when the main program begins, but the early arrival gives us a chance to settle in and maybe sample a little bit of its culinary scene. Peruvian Japanese fusion is internationally acclaimed, but locals will also tell you about chifa, a uniquely Peruvian Chinese fusion that is equally worth trying. So, depending on what time your flight arrives, you may want to take a walk along the cliffs above the Pacific or relax with a coffee in one of the leafy parks not far from our hotel. On the second day, we'll head right out, checking out and traveling south along the Pan American Highway into the coastal desert. The morning of our first full day will begin, as always, with a little orientation from our host, which sets out the parameters of our trip and what you can expect. Then we'll set off along the coast towards Paracas. It's a small port town where fishing boats and tour vessels bob in the same harbor. It's about a 4 hour drive, but it goes through some stark and beautiful desert landscapes. Paracas is named after the Paracas winds, strong desert gusts that carry sand far inland. It sits beside one of Peru's largest marine reserves and offers a slower pace than the capital. After checking in, the afternoon is yours to enjoy the hotel. You might take a walk along the boardwalk nearby or watch pelicans gathering near the wharf. This is a quieter side of Peru, one that is shaped by sea breezes, salt air, and long horizons. Today's excursion is all about ancient geoglyphs, fossil beds, and a desert that meets the sea. We'll start the day by heading over to the airport to embark on a scenic flight over the so called Nazca and Palpa lines. These are enormous figures carved in the desert floor, which were created somewhere between 800 BCE and 700 CE. Now, I'll say that this part of the trip is not entirely for the faint of heart, because we're going to be embarking on small aircraft that'll have between 12 and 16 passengers for a flight that's going to last around 2 hours. In order to see all of these animal and geometric designs that have puzzled researchers for decades, the pilot is going to bank and turn numerous times so that everyone has a view of these incredible geoglyphs. We'll see numerous different ones, from a hummingbird to a monkey that's over 100 meters long, and many, many others. Later on that day, we'll head into the Paracas National Reserve, a stunning mix of fossil beds, rocky outcrops, and beaches where red sand meets the blue ocean. We'll visit a natural arch known as La Catedral and climb to a lookout over the Yumaque Beach, and we'll also stop in at a spot called Red Beach before returning back to our hotel in Paracas. While yesterday was all about being in the air, our next day is all about being on the water and getting a taste of Peru's signature beverage. We'll set out in the morning on a private boat to visit the Ballestas Islands, a protected marine reserve home to sea lions, Humboldt penguins, pelicans, and Inca terns. Along the way, we'll pass the Candelabra, a massive geoglyph, much like the Nazca lines, but different, which is etched into a hillside above the bay. It's visible only from the sea. After the boat tour, we'll visit a local vineyard and a distillery in the Pisco region. Pisco is a grape brandy. It's Peru's national drink, and our hosts will walk us through the production process before we enjoy a guided tasting as well as a lunch on site. Although Pisco is made in other parts of South America, the Peruvians will tell you that they are the ones who discovered it first. This is a full sensory day: sea spray, birdsong, and the warming finish of a good glass of Pisco. If you're like me, you'll crave this tasty drink long after you leave Peru. Our trip will now take us back to Lima, retracing our route along the coast. It's a great time to rest, nap, or maybe ask your host to stop at a spot that might have caught your eye on the way down. Wrapping up the pre trip portion of the journey, we've already seen a different side of Peru with its wide desert landscapes and these ancient geoglyphs, as well as the coastline with all of its diverse wildlife. It's been a few days of fresh air, open horizons, and rich cultural contrasts. But this is where our 2 week main itinerary officially begins. For those who've been with us on the pre trip, we'll arrive back in Lima in the late afternoon and meet up with the rest of our group. And for those who are beginning our journey here, you'll be greeted at the airport, as with everyone, and transfer down into the hotel in the district called Barranco, which is one of Lima's most artistic and atmospheric districts. Back in the 19th century, this was a seaside resort, but Barranco is now a hub for artists, cafes, and boutique museums. Here, you'll find colonial mansions lining the main streets, not to mention striking street art murals, as well as the blooming jacaranda trees. From here, clip-top paths lead down to the quiet beaches and landmarks like the Puente de los Suspiros, the Bridge of Sighs, and the Pedro de Osma Museum. They're all just a short stroll away. You've got the evening free to relax at the hotel and head out for a taste of Lima's vibrant food scene. Tomorrow will be the start of our deeper dive into this part of the city with a guided tour. I want to take a moment to talk about where we're staying in Lima because this is a really special aspect of this trip. Hotel B is a beautifully restored Belle Epoque mansion in the heart of the Barranco district. In fact, it was once a seaside home for the Garcia Bedoya family, and the historic dwelling now blends timeless elegance with a contemporary Peruvian art. The marble floors to the original skylights, there's a strong sense of place, and it's just steps away from all the cafes and galleries that I've talked about, as well as the magnificent Pacific cliffs. This is much more than your ordinary hotel. It's part gallery and part gathering place. There's over 300 pieces of art hanging throughout the halls, and some of the rooms are even open directly out into the exhibit spaces. The restaurant is known for its take on modern Peruvian cuisine, and the bar serves exquisite cocktails, often with a terrace breeze. This is the kind of hotel where every corner tells a story. The rooms at the Hotel B are cozy yet full of charm. They feature all the amenities you could expect from any other first class hotel, but they're appointed with furnishings and art that almost make you feel like you're the personal guests of the Bedoyas themselves. This is in contrast to staying in a conventional hotel and made it a favorite on our previous trips here. We'll begin our time in Lima with a sensory journey through the neighborhoods of Barranco and Miraflores, where local ingredients, market life, and historic ruins all come together. We'll start off our excursion by diving into the creative heart of Lima. Beginning in Barranco with its mural lined streets and historic balconies, as well as its amazing bohemian cafes, we'll start off with a typical Limeño breakfast, maybe a tamale or a roast pork sandwich paired with some delicious Peruvian coffee. A fruit smoothie made from lucuma or guanabana follows as we cross over the Bridge of Sighs that I talked about earlier and wandered into the district back streets. From there, we'll then go on to visit a neighborhood market where our guide is going to introduce us to some of the tropical fruits rarely seen outside of Peru, the granadilla, camu camu, and chirimoya among them. In San Isidro, we'll learn how to make ceviche. That's the dish comprising of fish and seafood, which is cured in a lemon juice concoction, as well as a proper pisco sour. Later on, we'll visit the pre-Inca ruins of Huaca Pucllana, built around 400 CED. The adobe structure stands quietly amongst a whole set of modern buildings, and it's a reminder of just how deep Peru's cultural layers actually go. Our next day's activities will take us on an exploration of Lima's colonial core and to visit one of the most comprehensive museums of Andean culture. This time we'll start off in Lima's historic center. It was once the seat of Spanish power in South America, and as we walk from Plaza Mayor to Plaza San Martin, we're surrounded by layers of colonial architecture, Baroque facades, wooden balconies, and civic buildings that reflect centuries of politics, religion, and urban life. We'll visit the Monastery of San Francisco and descend into the catacombs. It's a haunting and fascinating network of vaulted chambers where thousands of bones are carefully arranged beneath the stone floors. Nearby, we'll pause to see the changing of the guard at the presidential palace, and we'll step inside the cathedral, which has stood here since the 16th century. That afternoon, we'll continue on to visit the Larco Museum. It's a quiet, elegant space surrounded by gardens and bougainvillea. Inside, the galleries showcase an extraordinary range of pre Columbian artifacts, from ceramics to textiles and goldwork. One wing houses a rather unique collection of erotic pottery, offering a glimpse into early Andean beliefs and rituals often left out of the official record. It's amusing for sure, but it's also super informative. Our next day is going to be completely open for rest or personal exploration, whether it's art, archaeology, or just a long walk along the seafront. While at first the idea of having a free day in a big South American city like this might sound daunting, but you'll find after having experienced the city for the first couple of days that it's actually quite welcoming and very easy to navigate. Maybe you'll head over to Monumental Callao, a former dockside district transformed into a vibrant center for street art and independent galleries. There's a wonderful rooftop cafe that overlooks the naval base and the city's sprawling port. But if you prefer a quieter route, you might walk or bike along the Malecon, the clifftop promenade stretching from Miraflores and San Miguel. On a clear day, the view reaches way down the Pacific coast. But if you're into art and textiles, you could visit the Amano Museum. It's a small but excellent private collection showcasing pre Columbian weaving and ceramic traditions, especially from the Paracas and Chanque cultures. Or you might just find a cafe or a pisco bar and let the hours unfold. After a few full days, this is your chance to pause and absorb the environment. And then we're off to the airport for our flight to the White City, where altitude begins to rise and the colonial charm meets a volcanic landscape. Arequipa is known for its graceful architecture, its clear mountain light, and streets built from the white volcanic stone of the nearby mountains. Nestled in a broad valley and surrounded by towering volcanoes, Arequipa has a slower rhythm, the kind of place that invites you to pause, take a walk, and simply take it all in. Our arrival day will be relaxed, making for a gentle and welcoming introduction to the Andes, and a perfect place to settle into the next chapter of our journey. On our first full day in Arequipa, we're going to take in the sights, sounds, and spirit of the city, from its lively markets and quiet monasteries to the sweeping views over the Andes Mountains. We'll start off our day with a visit to the San Camilo market. It's a lively spot declared part of the city's cultural heritage. From there, we'll head on foot through the historic center to the Monastery of Santa Catalina, a vast colonial era complex with cobbled lanes and painted cloisters. At the Plaza de Armas, our guide will share with us stories behind the city's volcanic stone architecture, followed by a visit to the church and cloisters of the Jesuits. Inside the chapel of San Ignacio, intricate painted ornamentation decorates the ceiling. It's a hallmark of Arequipa's Baroque Andean style. Then we'll take a bus and drive over to the Carman Alto viewpoint, which overlooks terraced hillsides and the Chili River, with the volcanoes Misti, Chachani, and Pichu Pichu in the background. We finish the day in Yanahuara, a small district known for its carved stone arches and wide views over the city and surrounding mountains. Our next day will take us on a deeper dive into the heritage of Arequipa, with hands-on experiences, a look at traditional life, and one of the most memorable archaeological discoveries of the whole country. Today we're going to explore Arequipa from its past to its present. We're going to start at Mundo Alpaca, a working textile center where we'll meet alpacas and llamas and watch demonstrations of how the fibers from their fleece is sorted. I should mention that obtaining the fleece is done in a process quite similar to shearing sheep, and it doesn't hurt the animals. In fact, it relieves them of an extra layer so that they can be cooler in the summer heat. We'll then witness traditional weaving on backstrap looms. A small museum nearby shows early machinery and rare pre-Columbian textiles, and the visit ends at a factory outlet for those interested in some ethically made alpaca garments. From there, we'll head over to Paucarpata and Sabandia, passing irrigated fields and stopping at the 17th century Sabandia mill, as well as the colonial era founder's mansion. Both were built from the city's iconic white volcanic stone. We'll then have lunch at a traditional picanteria, a restaurant serving fixed menu regional dishes before we make one final stop back on the way to town. At the Museo Santuarios Andinos, we'll meet Mami Juanita, the frozen remains of an Inca girl found atop Mount Ampato in 1995. She was preserved in ice for more than 5 centuries and offers a poignant and direct connection to the Inca world. Today, we get a whole day to enjoy Arequipa, whether it means visiting its churches and museums or simply taking a quiet walk along the valley to soak in the atmosphere. As with Lima, you'll find the city very welcoming, but since it's much more compact, it's very easy to get out and explore on your own. You might begin by heading back to the Yanahuara district we visited 2 days prior. Its small plaza and church are framed by views of the misty volcano, and the narrow streets still reflect the area's colonial era layout. For something a little more curated, you might want to visit Casa Moral, an 18th century mansion filled with colonial furniture, paintings, and historical records. Or you could explore the Archaeology Museum at the Catholic University, which focuses on ancient burial practices, including early examples of trepanation using stone tools. Now, if you're feeling active, you might want to take a walk into the Chilina Valley just outside the city. It's a dirt path that winds past farmland, eucalyptus groves, and irrigation ditches, and it offers a quiet escape into the surrounding landscape. However you choose to spend it, this extra day gives you time to absorb Arequipa's unique setting and style. Today, we're going to make our way to the Sacred Valley with stops in Pisac and a local weaving village that give us our first real glimpse into daily life in the Andes. Checking out from our hotel in Arequipa, we'll head to the airport and make our flight to Cusco. From there, we'll immediately descend into the Sacred Valley, which is a gentler way to adjust to the altitude of the region. Our first stop is going to be at Pisac, where the Inca terraces rise above the valley floor. We're going to explore around the hillside ruins for a bit before heading down to the town's famous market, where textiles, ceramics, and traditional tools are sold side by side. And I might add that this is one of the most interesting markets I've seen, not just in Peru, but anywhere. In the nearby community of Cacacolo, Quechua women demonstrate the traditional steps of preparing and weaving wool, from carding and spinning to natural dyeing and pattern making, all on backstrack looms. There's even a chance to try it yourself. We'll stop for lunch in Pisac before continuing on to our hotel in the valley. Dinner will be served there, and that'll give us a chance to unwind and settle into our new surroundings with mountains in every direction. Today, we're going to explore two remarkable sites in the Sacred Valley. One that showcases Inca agricultural ingenuity, and another where salt is still harvested using centuries old techniques. We'll begin at Moray, where the Incas built vast circular terraces that descend like a natural amphitheater. These weren't just for show. Many archaeologists believe that they were used as an open-air agricultural laboratory, allowing the Incas to experiment with growing conditions across different altitudes and microclimates. Some of the terraces vary by as much as 15 degrees Celsius from top to bottom, which would have helped them cultivate crops adapted to Peru's dramatically varied landscapes. Next, we'll visit the salt mines of Maras, a network of over 3,000 shallow pools carved into the mountainside. They're fed by a subterranean spring with naturally salty water. These terraces have been in use since pre-Inca times, and the same families have managed them for generations, harvesting salt by hand using traditional evaporation techniques. Depending on the season, the pools range from pearly white to soft pink and rust red, creating a stunning mosaic against the terracotta slopes of the Sacred Valley. We'll have time to wander, take photos, and learn about the process before sitting down for lunch together not far away. It's a relaxed but a deeply immersive day, one that highlights the ingenuity, resilience, and continuity of life in the Andes. Our excursion today will enable us to take a deeper look at life in the Sacred Valley, with time to explore local crafts, walk through ancient Inca ruins, and share in a traditional meal that's been prepared the same way for generations. We'll start off with a visit to the Museo Vivo de Yucay, a cultural center where we'll watch demonstrations of traditional Andean crafts like weaving, silverwork, and pottery. There's also a chance to feed alpacas or even interact with the local artisans, which will give us a close-up look at life in the Sacred Valley today. We'll then head over to the archaeological site of Ollantaytambo, which was once an Inca checkpoint guarding the valley. The site is remarkable. Terraces climb steeply up from the town, and the original street plan from Inca times is still in use. For those feeling fit, you can even walk up to the top of the terraces, keeping in mind that we are at 2,800 meters above sea level, or just over 9,000 feet, so taking it a bit easier is definitely worth considering. For lunch, we're in for something truly special. A pachamanca, a traditional meal cooked underground using hot stones. Layers of meat, tubers, which are basically potatoes, corn, and herbs are wrapped in leaves, sealed with earth, and left to slow cook in the heat of the soil. It's an ancient method and one of the most communal and celebratory ways to share a meal in the Andes. Today is the moment we've been building toward. This is going to be our journey deep into the Andes to stand among the stone paths and terraces of Peru's most iconic site, Machu Picchu. We'll embark on the train at Ollantaytambo, which is the only way to get further into the valley other than walking. And the rails follow the path of the Urubamba River as it winds through steep canyons and dense forest. Our train arrives at Aguascalientes, the town in the valley floor beneath the famous citadel. From there, a shuttle bus will take us up to the famed site. Led by our guide, we'll first explore the site's ceremonial and residential sectors, from the Temple of the Sun, aligned with the solstice, to the Sacred Rock and the Temple of the Condor. The layout, the precision of the stonework, and the engineering behind the terraces all reflect the extraordinary knowledge and vision of the Inca builders. This is the view that draws people to Peru. But being here, walking the stone paths and standing in the shadow of the surrounding peaks gives it an entirely new depth. We'll overnight in the town, which has some of the predictable souvenir shops, but our main goal will be to rest up for our next visit. Today, we include another chance to explore the site, or even climb up one of the surrounding peaks. Returning to Machu Picchu for our second visit, we'll retrace part of the route through the religious and residential sectors, and this slower pass will give us a bit more time to absorb the details and meaning behind the key structures. But for those looking for more activity, there's two optional hikes. The Machu Picchu Mountain Trail is a steady climb to the highest viewpoint above the citadel. It's about 4 hours round trip, though. In addition to that, there's the Huayna Picchu Trail, which is even steeper and narrower, and it requires a bit of scrambling, but it certainly rewards hikers with a panoramic view over the ruins. Both of these hikes, while extremely picturesque, are really for those in excellent physical health, considering that while we are lower in elevation than both Cusco or the Sacred Valley, we're still at 2,500 meters above sea level, so the effects of being at altitude will undoubtedly be noticeable. After descending from the citadel, we'll return to Aguascalientes and board our train back to the Sacred Valley, eventually continuing on to Cusco, where the next chapter of our Peru trip will begin. Our stay in Cusco will begin with a closer look at its many layers, from the Inca temples and ancient stonework to colonial cathedrals that still anchor the city's historic heart. In fact, we'll begin with a visit to the cathedral, which was built over an Inca palace. Its collection includes silverwork, carved wooden altars, and colonial era paintings that blend Catholic imagery with indigenous symbolism. We'll then visit Coricancha, the Inca Temple of the Sun, where perfectly fitted stone walls once shone with gold. Though a convent now sits above it, many of the original walls still remain. From there, we drive over to Sacsayhuaman, an enormous fortress where limestone blocks were fitted without mortar, some weighing over 100 tons. The scale and precision are still unmatched today. Finally, we'll continue to Kencho, a carved rock site with ritual niches and an underground chamber, and we'll end the day at Tambomache, a site known for its spring-fed fountains and likely used for water ceremonies. Once again, we have an opportunity for you to explore Cusco at your own pace. Whether that means browsing through the many markets, diving into some of the museums, or just soaking up the rhythm of this remarkable city. We've got another full day for you to explore Cusco at your own pace. But no matter what you do, you probably want to take it a bit easy, keeping in mind that we are at over 3,000 meters above sea level, which is better than 10,000 feet. You might start off at San Pedro Market, where vendors sell everything from dried herbs to coca leaves and cheeses, as well as bundles of spectacularly beautiful flowers. Alternatively, the Museo de Arte Precolombino features ceramics, goldwork, and sculpture from pre-Inca cultures, all beautifully presented in a restored colonial mansion. For those interested in archaeology, the Inca Museum offers burial bundles, bone tools, and rare examples of quipus, the knotted string systems that were used for record keeping. Strolling down Hatun Muriok Street to see the famous 12-angeled stone or head into San Blas, a hillside neighborhood which is full of artist workshops, staircases, and quiet corners. Whether you want history, art, or a long lunch with a view, Cusco certainly delivers. Our main itinerary ends here, and we'll start off with a breakfast as well as a transfer to the airport for your flight home via Lima. You'll return not only with photographs and souvenirs, but with a much deeper sense of Peru, its history, its landscapes, and its people. For those continuing with us on our post trip, what comes next is something entirely different, a journey shaped by winding rivers, dense jungle, and the rhythm of life in the Amazon basin. We'll fly directly from Cusco to Puerto Maldonado, where we'll then embark on a ship and follow the river deep into the jungle, arriving at our lodge surrounded by the towering canopy and vibrant life of the Amazon rainforest. I just want to say a few words about this very special lodge that we have picked out. Tucked deep inside the Amazon, the Incatera Reserva Amazonica will be our rainforest home for the next few days. It's set right on the banks of the Madre de Dios River and is surrounded by 17,000 hectares of private ecological reserve. The lodge blends seamlessly into its environment with cabanas inspired by the Esaeja design and rainforest life all around. The lodge will be our gateway to visiting this part of the Amazon, with expert naturalist guides offering daily excursions on foot and by canoe. You can walk above the canopy on a suspended trail system or follow a jungle path to Lake Sandoval. The dining room of the lodge features fresh, locally inspired dishes, and in the evenings, it's candlelit, quiet, and super atmospheric in harmony with its surroundings. The cabanas are simple but well appointed, with screened in porches, mosquito netted beds, and touches like bathrobes, flashlights, and citronella candles. There's even an elevated pathway connecting all the cabanas to the main lodge and the excursion center, which makes for a comfortable stay in the middle of the jungle. This part of the journey invites us to see the Amazon from two unforgettable angles. First, by gliding quietly across a mere still oxbow lake, and then walking high above the forest floor along a canopy walkway suspended in the treetops. Part of the beauty of staying at Incaterra is that you can choose the adventure that suits you best from one of the many included options. For example, there's a guided excursion to Lake Sandoval, an oxbow lake in the Tambopata National Reserve. On this one, we travel partway by boat and partway on foot before switching to a dugout canoe for the final stretch. Along the way, we might see giant river otters, howler monkeys, black caimans, or even macaws flying overhead. Later in the day, we might opt for another kind of adventure, this time the Incaterra Canopy Walkway, which is a suspended trail system high in the treetops, offering an entirely new perspective on the rainforest. The longest stretch runs more than 300 meters across, connecting observation towers and platforms above the forest floor. Back at the lodge, you can unwind with a presentation at the Eco Center or book a botanical spa treatment featuring local ingredients. We'll have another day to explore the textures of rainforest life, from the traditional crops and quiet Blackwater creeks to a nighttime walk that reveals the forest's more mysterious side. Today's excursions give us the opportunity to explore the human and ecological side of the rainforest. One of the included activities takes us to a working farm near Gamitana Creek, where crops like cacao and bananas grow in the shade side of the canopy. We'll sample what's in season, then continue on foot to a Blackwater Creek, a shadowy waterway where caimans, turtles, and piranhas swim, and birds fly just above the surface. Later on, we'll visit Hacienda Concepcion, a former plantation now used for botanical research. The property here includes over 200 medicinal plant species and a small canoe route for spotting herons, grebes, and other riverside wildlife. But if you're still curious after dark, there's a guided rainforest by night walk. I can highly recommend it. A torchlit trail lets you hear and feel the forest come alive in a completely different way. Eyes adjust, sounds shift, and the air even seems to change. As our time in the Amazon comes to a close, we take a final moment to watch the river drift by. It's a quiet farewell to the rhythms of the rainforest. And we'll fly off today and leave with a deeper sense of Peru's contrasts, from the mountaintop sanctuaries and highland markets to the rich living world of the jungle. This extension program in the rainforest offers not just a change of scenery, but entirely different perspective on the country's soul. So I hope that this explanation has given you a bit better insight into what you can expect from our trip around Peru. And if you'd like to get more information, we have lots on our website. In fact, you'll find the link to the webpage in the description below this video on YouTube. And there you'll get a summary of the trip as well as a link to download our detailed trip itinerary, where you can get all the details, prices, terms and conditions, and everything that you need to know. Of course, you may still have some lingering questions or just want to have a conversation to know if this trip is really right for you. And we're more than happy to help. The best way to do that is to drop an email to Paula and arrange a call, and she'll be more than delighted to assist with any questions that you have and ensure that you have everything you need to decide whether to join us on this trip. Thank you so much for joining me on this virtual journey covering our Peruvian sojourn from the coast to the Amazon, and I hope it's given you a glimpse of what you can expect. If you enjoy following our webinars on new trips, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. That way you'll be alerted every time I release a new webinar or trip. Otherwise, thanks for taking the time to explore this part of the world. And if you're not already on our newsletter list, I invite you to join our community and receive our weekly newsletter. Hope to see you on one of our trips soon. Would love to get you started on this incredible journey. Happy travels.